Welcome to Session Sunday. Hi guys, it's Jack Edwards, and today's session is going to be focusing on another small group session. But before we get into this week's video, make sure to give us a like and subscribe, and if you missed last week's video, click on the link above. Okay, so moving into part one of this week's session, we're starting off with an SAQ based drill. Before we get into the drill, let's have a look at how many players we've got this week and the equipment that we're going to be using. We've got 5 players for the session. However, if you've got 4 or 3 players, or even if you're doing a one-to-one session, you can still do most of the drills that we're doing today. Okay, you don't really have to adapt it. Okay, but we're just working with 5 players throughout for all of the drills that we're doing. In terms of the equipment, the main things that we need are balls and cones. However, if you do have poles and hurdles as well, that would really help with this drill and then later drills further on in the session. In terms of the first drill, what we're doing, okay, we're doing a figure of 8 type drill. So it's all about our sprinting and turning, and then moving on to our dribbling and turning with the ball as well. Okay, so the setup, what we have for this part of the session, okay, so from the start pole or cone here into the middle should be 10 yards, and another 10 yards from the middle to the next pole. So what you're best off doing is setting a square up and then setting a line through the middle. Okay, so it's 20 yards depth here, each side, and then in terms of width, it's 20 yards again. So it's 10 yards from here to the middle, and then 10 yards from here into the middle again. Into the wider area. So how the players are going to do it, okay, they're going to start on this pole here. They're going to sprint diagonally across the other side. When they're approaching the corner and turning the corner, you want them to get a low body position to enable them to turn around the corner quickly, okay? They're going to get themselves round the pole in the middle, okay, so they change the direction. Again, slow themselves down as they approach the corner, and then it's a burst off into the opposite direction, okay? Again, get that low body position into the corner, okay? Get themselves around the start pole again, and then back through into the middle, okay? The start point for the next player, okay, is when they've made their way around, when they've gone past that middle pole there, okay, they're not going to bump into each other then. So then this player can start to finish their way around, this player can start, and by the time they've got back into the middle, okay, this player will just be crossing that corner to go across, okay, and then once they've had their go, so we're just going to bring this player back here, they will just move up one each time, okay, so we've got the 4 people waiting there. And then after that, obviously this person's gone. So we're always keeping by those socially distant rules of the 2 metre rule throughout. So then when the players do it with the ball, we want them to burst out, okay, to the opposite side. So this is where we want them to really accelerate, okay, when they've got a nice stretch, space in front of them, slow themselves down, coming into the corner to turn and burst out. Nice sharp footwork, obviously around here to build some speed, build momentum, slow themselves down, and then a nice burst of speed again. So do it without the ball first, and then move into introducing the ball to work on our dribbling. We will now move into our first animation before moving on to part 2 of this week's session. Okay, so moving into part 2 of this week's session, we're now moving into our second SAQ based drill. Okay, this time the focus is more on our sprinting and backpedaling. So the setup we have for this part of the session is from the start pole or cone here into the middle is 6 yards, and then a further 6 yards to the end pole, and then from the middle into our centre area here is 6 yards, and then 6 yards again to our second wide area here. Okay, so the setup is literally 12 yards by 12 yards, so it's not too complicated. So we want to focus on the players getting around the pole or around the cone. Okay, so again, it's when we're approaching that cone or that pole, having that low body position. Okay, so it enables us to turn quickly and then shift from a sprint into the back pedal and then a back pedal into the sprint. Okay, so what they're going to do is sprint up to the first pole or cone, and then they're going to backpedal around back to the start, sprint up to the second one, backpedal around to the start, and then we're going to sprint into the middle, get around, backwards to the other side, sprint up to the middle again, backpedal again, and then sprint up through. Okay, so we're working on that change of direction. Okay, we're focusing on pumping them arms, keeping the heels off the ground, scanning our shoulders to see where the space is around us. Obviously, when we're backpedaling as well, we don't want to bump into anything. When the first player gets back to here and goes into the middle, that means the next player can go, okay, because they're both going to be working in opposite sides. Once they've got to the end, they can just walk it back and get themselves in, or it can just be a light jog to make sure that they're ready to go, in case obviously, you know, there isn't that much rest time in between. You want to do between two and 3 reps each time, and then if you do after a couple of sets, do it with the ball as well. So sprinting with the ball, nice close footwork, getting themselves around, sprinting up with the ball again, okay, enabling that we're using 2 feet, and we're going the opposite direction again, okay, so making sure that the players are bursting out once they've got round the corner, nice explosiveness of speed, and then with our dribbling, cover the ground quickly into space, okay? So don't be taking too many touches, okay? If we've got 12 yards to cover, get the ball in front, okay? Keep the ball obviously in the vicinity of the body, okay? So we're in control of the ball, but not keeping it too close to our feet. And when we get round the corners, that's when we want those nice little touches, really focus on that close control, so then it enables us to burst out into space. We will now move into our second animation before moving on to part 3 of this week's session. Now moving into part 3 of this week's session, we're now moving into our final SAQ based drill of this session. We're focusing on our explosive speed. Okay, so the players are going to start in the hurdles here. If you don't have hurdles, try and use some bigger cones. Okay, so it gives something for the players to step over. If you don't have them, then try and emphasise on stepping over as much as they can. Okay, even if you only have smaller cones, because obviously we want them to be stepping over to then burst out into their stride. So what the players are going to do, they're going to go over to the right, back to the middle, over to the left and back to the middle. Okay, this is going right foot over first, then left foot, and on the way back it'll be left foot, right foot, and then again right foot, left foot. So it's a step over each time. After they've done that, okay, they're going to burst out into the hurdles in here, which are going to be smaller hurdles. Again, if you've only got cones, that's fine. Just again, emphasise it on getting a bit of a gap in between each one. So it's 1 foot in each one, so that's working on them, pumping them arms, getting those knees up, okay, so we're getting that explosiveness, that good burst out, so they're going to get themselves 1 foot in each one, then they're going to go out to the right, okay, slow themselves down, turn into the corner, burst out to the left, and then once they've come through to the middle, they're going to come over to the right side, okay, they're going to receive the ball from the coach, take it across the body, play back, get themselves back into the middle again, burst out to the left, okay, receive it from the coach, take it out to the left and play back. So we're adding a little bit of a technical drill at the end of it as well. And then it's just going to be a simple jog back. The next player will go once the first player has passed that second pole or cone, whatever you want it to be. Okay, once they've turned around there and they're coming in to receive the first pass, the next player can go. Okay, so the emphasis then is on this player to make sure they have a good first touch so they're not holding anybody up. And again, the players will just keep moving up. Okay, so one player will move up here. This means this player can then go to there. And then obviously once they've all got back to the start, we'll do it again. So you can do it as many repetitions as you'd like to do. The second time that you do it, instead of doing it as a pass, do it as a header. Okay, so the player comes in close here, it's thrown up by the coach and you head back. Okay, so they're using that explosive speed to get some momentum to jump up and head the ball. So really test them on the headers, not one where it's just on the floor and it's a simple head back. Get them jumping, okay, so you've got to watch the flight of the ball, okay, all the way, use that speed that they've gained and then head the ball back and get to the other side. We will now move into our next animation before moving on to this week's 4-corner model. Okay, so moving into this week's 4-corner model, starting off with technical and tactical, starting off with our SAQ-based drills, looking at getting our heels off the ground, our pumping of our arms, and then our footwork around the cones. Okay, so you don't want to be going into the cones too fast. Okay, so it gives more chance for the players to slip and lose balance. So when they're approaching the cones, slowing themselves down. Okay, nice neat footwork to get around, and then we can get that burst of acceleration. Pumping the arms all the time. Okay, especially on that back pedal. Okay, keeping the heels off the ground again, so it doesn't enable us to fall over, and then we can move faster because we're lighter on our feet. Then our movement, okay, so looking into our technical drills, our movement to receive the ball, okay, and then our movement in the actual SAQ-based drills, okay, so sprinting out, changing our movements in terms of our body position to slow down and turn corners, okay, and then bursting out again. So the different movements that we're doing all the way through. And then looking into our technical drills, so our receiving skills now, okay, so our body position to receive the ball, and then our first touch, and then looking at our execution of our passes, okay, so we want nice firm passes, punching the passes in, okay, so that we're testing the player's first touch and the tempo is quite high. And then finally being clinical in front of goal, okay, so our final drill is going to be looking at finishing, okay, so we don't want to be taking too long in front of goal. As soon as we made our decision, we want to finish straight away, okay, so it gives us more of a chance to score. Moving into the psychological corner this week, focus is one of the main ones. Okay, so focusing on where the ball's coming from, where the ball's going to. Okay, knowing that, you know, exactly where you're going through. So you're going through all the hurdles. So we're focusing on them fast feet. Okay, focusing on exploding out and having one foot in between each hurdle, and then sprinting around the corners, getting ourselves through, and then focusing on where our movement's going to take us to receive the ball. Then looking at our decision making. So again, in the final third, taking a touch out of our feet to finish, or seeing how fast the ball is coming in to finish first time, okay? So making our decisions quickly, okay? Not taking too long, not dwelling on them as well, okay? And just making sure that once we've made our decision, we go through with it. Our awareness, okay, so awareness of the space around us. So in SAQ-based type drill, awareness of what's behind us, okay? So when we're backpedaling, making sure you know where the pole is, what you're going towards, so you can get nice and close into it to shuffle around and go up. And then awareness of where the ball's coming from, okay? So again, position yourself with your body, see where the ball's coming from and where you're going to play to. And then finally, a positive attitude. So having that positive attitude throughout when you're working hard for so many repetitions for a certain amount of time, okay? Having that positive attitude throughout, not just one player, but the whole team throughout. Now moving into our physical corner this week, again, we're talking about speed, okay, both with and without the ball, which leads us into our intensity, okay, because the faster we work, okay, the better the intensity is, the better the tempo is, okay, and it's more match realistic. And then looking at our ABCs, so our agility, balance, coordination, especially when we're turning corners, when we're doing the hurdles, when we're exploding through, okay, and then we're turning different ways, okay, and then exploding out again. So looking at our explosiveness, okay, so after we've slowed down, we want a good burst of speed to get ourselves back up. So it could be at times we're looking at a fullback or a midfielder or a winger, okay, they're getting out wide and then they're trying to burst forward. They're making them burst and runs from midfield or a burst and run into space. And then finally, our endurance, again, so when we're working for a certain amount of repetitions, certain amount of time, okay, being able to go for the whole amount of time when you're getting tired, pushing yourself to your limits, so relaying that onto the players, so just keep going and working themselves to the maximum. And then finally, our social corner, again, communication, both on and off the ball. So players who are receiving it, asking for it. So when do you want the ball? Okay, so when we're moving into receiving drills, okay, someone might just give you the ball when you move into a cone, okay, tell them to wait, tell them to hold, okay, and then you want it, demand the ball, okay, so demanding the ball, not just half-hearted asking for it, demanding the ball each time that you want it. And then the players who are on the ball already and they're playing it, okay, talking to the players where they're going to move to, you know, they might have a closed body so they don't know where they're receiving from, so it's open out, okay, and then receive it, then it's turn. So little bits of information, again, get that from the coach as well, so you've got to relay that onto the players. You don't want to be saying it all the time. You want the players you want to encourage the players to start doing this, okay, but you've got to feed them the right information. And then finally, praise and support, so coming from players, coming from the coach as well, giving the players lots of praise throughout, okay, to keep on going, okay, when they're doing something good, giving them lots of support. If they don't do something great, okay, how can we help them to do it better next time? Okay, so moving into part 4 of this week's session, we're now moving into our first technical based drill. We're looking at a receiving skill to start off with. So we're going to have 6 poles or cones set up, okay? The depth is going to be 20 yards, so from the start here into the middle 10 yards, and then a further 10 yards. In terms of width, you don't want it to be too wide because the player in the middle has got to move, okay? So I tend to go for 6 yards, okay? So 6 yards of width. The player here starts in the middle. Everybody else is on a pole or a cone on the outside. You have 2 balls, okay? So you can have one ball starting here and one ball starting here because the player is going to be playing, okay, with 2 separate pairs, okay? So this pair here, okay, and this pair here. So you can have a ball starting with one of them and one of them. They'll start in the middle. They want to receive the ball on the outside, okay, of the pole or the cone for a minute, Okay, so we're focusing on that first touch, so our receiving skills, okay, our body position to receive the ball, and then our execution of the passes. You want the players to fire the ball in, okay, so they're really testing them. Want to be nice and light on the feet, so it's going to be, they're going to move out, receive the ball, open out and play. So even the players on the outside have got to have that movement to receive it as well, so they're not standing right on the cone or the pole, and then they're going to get themselves across the other side, where one of these two players will have a ball as well. They're going to play, open out again, and then play to the opposite side, and again, they'll be receiving it, so obviously they played to there before, get themselves across, play in, open out, and play across. They can even do it first time. If the ball's coming in and they think they can time it with the pace that's on the pass, okay, and they've got themselves a nice body position to play first time, they can enable them to do that, but obviously you've got to make sure that the body position is right, the weight of the pass, okay, is perfect to do it, the ball's just in front of them, okay, so it's giving them that decision making again, but making sure it's easily done. So they can do it for a minute, you can then do it again for another minute, or you can do it for 30 seconds. If you only have 4 players for this, then you can just put yourself in as the coach, okay, and you can just be one of the players passing it in. And if you have 6 players, so you might have an extra player in, you can just have it in groups of 2, okay, so they're just switching over, so there's 2 balls going at once, okay, but obviously there's 2 players moving as well. We will now move into our next animation before moving on to part 5 of this week's session. Now moving into part 5 of this week's session, we're now looking at our second technical based drill. This time we're going to be looking at a quick passing drill. Okay, so there's lots of first time passes and movements. So the ball's going to start here where there's 2 players. In terms of the setup, again, we're going 12 yards of depth and 12 yards of width. And then in the middle here, we just want 2 yards in between the poles or the cones if you don't have the poles, okay? So whatever side the player plays to, the movement's going to start opposite, okay? So if they're playing to the right side here, they're going to play up, okay, then they're going to get themselves through, so they're coming in to receive it, okay, so it's nice quick movements in, it's going to get played back, okay, for a 1-2, so they're going to play it. We then want them to close the opposite side of the pitch off, okay, so this player is going to step onto the ball, punch the ball into the winger, okay, who's then going to set the ball back to the player in the middle, who's then going to make their movements out wide, okay, and it's going to play it through first time, and then play it up to the next player. So then the movement is the player who made the run in here, will go up to the top, and the player who was the highest player will go out wide. Okay, so we're looking for it to time that run into there, then a quick 1-2, play the ball in. Okay, so we're going to go the opposite side now. So we're going to play into the left here, get ourselves through. So again, we're looking at that 1-2. Once they've played it, get a wider position. So when that ball gets played into a 1-2, we're not standing nearly on the winger's toes. Okay, we've created some space, close one side of the pitch off. This ball gets punched in here, then they're taking this player's place. Okay, so then when that player's received it here, they're playing it in to push onto the ball again, to play a nice firm pass in front, to lead on to, and then playing into the next player and joining the back of the queue. And obviously the player here goes there, we go up there. So we want the players to work as fast as they can. So these passes in here want us to be first time passes, okay? So again, movement to receive the ball, okay? Nice heels off the ground, okay? So we can move quickly, we can change direction, and then our execution of our passes. We will now move into our next animation before moving on to the final part of this week's session. Okay, so now we're moving into the final part of this week's session, which is another technical based drill, but we're now implementing our receiving skills, our quick passing, and then some finishing at the end, okay? So what we've got for our setup is 20 yards of depth, okay? So from 10 yards from the start to the middle, and then from the middle to the end. And then in terms of our width, it's again 10 yards each side, so 20 yards of width. So it's a bit like a diamond with another pole or cone in the middle. If you do have the poles, I recommend using them because the players treat them a lot more as if it's a defender and get round them more than a cone which is just on the floor. So you're going to have one place spare, and we'll know why in a second because that's where the next movement will go to. So the ball's going to start here, okay? So the player is going to receive on the opposite side to where this player is going to play, okay? So this side's going to be the left side. So as soon as this ball is going to come across, so it'll be take a touch across, then that's the signal for the movement to play in. As soon as this player is receiving the ball, get ourselves out away from the pole, okay, away from the defender for first time pass. As that ball's approaching this player here, this is where we want to start to get on the run. So it's curving our run. And then this player here is going to move, so the striker is going to move out wide to the other side. Okay, the player who played the ball into the centre will move up. And then the player who's about to play the through ball will move up and become the striker. So this player is then going to meet the ball, drive in towards goal, and then look to finish. Okay, so it could be, if there's enough weight on the pass, meeting it, okay, on the run and finishing first time. If not, taking it down the line, taking it, on the, might be right-footed, so taking it on the right and then looking to finish, or looking to cut in, okay, so the goalkeeper comes out more centrally to leave both corners of the goal to finish, but we want them to just be decisive and clinical in front of goal. And then as soon as this player is scored, we'll obviously have our next ball ready to go. This player will make their way back around the same side they've been on, so they're not getting in the way of the other play. And then we'll go again. So then we'll go from the right side. Okay, the player will receive, play in here first time. Okay, and then obviously again, when the ball's travelling there, this player will get on the run. Another first time pass. Player will lead in, so like we say, moving into central areas to then finish either side. And then they will go back to the start. This player moves up behind this pole. This player here is waiting for this player's movement. Okay, so they're mirroring it. And then up here, the ball will go again. We just keep going and going and going. So you want the players again to be focusing on that movement to receive, okay, our body position to receive the ball, nice first time passes, and then nice runs, okay, in behind to meet the ball, and then we're trying to be clinical in front of goal. If you don't have a goalkeeper, okay, coach can just go in goal, okay. If you do have a goalkeeper doing another session at the time, you can try and get them involved, or if you don't want to go in goal yourself, you can just put some poles in the goal, okay, and it's active. If you score on the corner, you get 2 points. If you score down the middle, it's no points unless it's at, at a certain height, or if it's in between, you might have the corner split up for 2 points, and then a smaller gap, okay, in between the middle of the goal and the corners, which could just be for 1 point, where if it's got enough power in, you might beat the goalkeeper. But obviously, if you do have a goalkeeper or a coach to go in, that'd be preferable. More for the players, really. It's because it's more realistic. We will now move into our final animation before concluding this week's session. Thanks for watching this week's video. For more content, follow me on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook and TikTok. The links will be in the description below, and we'll see you next week for another Session Sunday.